Hey, how about you, everybody? Welcome into this week's edition of the Auburn Live Recruiting Show. I'm your host, Jeffrey Lee, Senior Recruiting Editor for Auburn Live on 3, and I'm joined, as I always am this week, by three of the guys who know more about recruiting than they probably need to. Mr. Cole Pinkston, Mr. Jhead, and Mr. Keith Niebuhr on the road. How about you, fellas?
How about you, brother?
Oh, man. Got a lot to talk about this week. Got a big day tomorrow. Auburn's going to have its first big junior day under new coach Hugh Freeze. We've already confirmed more than 50 recruits, and I'm sure that number is going to go up considerably. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 70 or more by the time it's all said and done. We've confirmed a lot. We've got that all at Auburn Live on 3. If you're not a member of that site, go check us out, man. 1 week for free. You can do it right now. Sign up, get it for free. And if you don't like us after a week, you can cancel at no charge. But I guarantee you will not want to cancel because there's a lot of information. We're going to have it all coming. We're going to have a junior day blog. We're going to have confirmations when guys get there. We're going to have exit interviews when they leave, and we're expecting maybe a commitment or two. Would be more surprised if they don't get a commitment than if they do. Before we get started and go in depth on this junior day, we want to say to the 3 people who email me asking who can they get to buy them a house to help sell their house, I got the answer for you. Jessica Andrews with eXp Realty, folks, 334-704-4442. As Jhead says, she's a 5-star realtor. Buying, selling residential investment properties, she can do it all, folks. Jessica Andrews with eXp Realty, 334-704-4442. And tell her we sent you. All right, folks, fellas, we've got we got more than 50 recruits expected to attend, confirmed from 6 or 7 different states. I think that last count, there were 18 4-stars. I'm expecting that number to grow to more than 20 before it's all said and done. Cole, let me get you started, big dog. What's your thoughts? You've been following who's coming, who's not, who can't make it, who can. You've seen the list. You've helped build the list going into tomorrow. First big junior day under Hugh Freeze. What are you taking into it?
Well, obviously the first thing that jumps off the page is how much different, it is than what happened last year. I'm not going to avoid that because it's a big difference, and it should be notated that they were able to get so many guys out here in short notice, it seemed like. So these are guys that are telling me, hey, I got some other schools kind of asking me if I'm going to be there on this day, and they want me there this weekend, but I kind of want to be at Auburn on this day. It sounds like it's going to be a good event, a lot of guys there, good camaraderie, that kind of thing. So that stands out to me, and a lot of those guys have said that, most of them really, because these are guys, like you said, you got a lot of 4-stars on the list. You got a lot of guys that are probably going to be 4-stars at some point, guys that are unrated that are going to have a really good ranking when they get the ranking as we continue to go through the 24 class. But I see so many good players coming in. I've been watching all the film on these guys. There's a lot of guys I like, even some of those unrated guys. A lot of good linebackers. Yeah. A lot of good linebackers, which is, to me, a big position of need. Wesley Steiner, Cam Riley probably moving on after 23, or close to it. That's a big position.
Keith, help some of our listeners understand what they can expect. What are recruits coming up here to do? What's the junior day entail?
Forgive me, I'm driving, so
Keith is coming to Auburn to help blow out the coverage.
Yeah. Honestly, it's not that complicated. They're going to show them, first and foremost, the facilities. You've got the Taj Mahal of college football facilities now. That's number 1 on the list, right? That is the first thing all these kids are going to want to see, and the first thing they're going to need to see. Many of them know about Jordan-Hare. Many of them have already been to games at Jordan-Hare. The ones that haven't will enjoy that experience walking around there. But again, the new facility, you don't build this thing. Well, let me rephrase that. You build it 4 days like this, right? That's why you have it. You want to show off what you have, because at the end of the day, what are we doing for you, the athlete? And that giant building it looks pretty, but the crux of it, the main thing with it is it's about as a player, your development. That's what's going on inside this building. We got this, and this, and these are the things that are going to help us get you to the NFL. So first and foremost, that's what they're going to want to do. Secondly, FaceTime with the coaches and getting to know the coaches. These younger guys, when Hugh Freeze goes to a school, he can barely talk to these guys by rules. I mean, you got you got a limited amount of time you can kind of get to know these guys. Now you can chat with them on the phone, and they've done that, but nothing beats that eye-to-eye contact, right? So Hugh Freeze on down, his assistants, and now, which is different than 10 years ago, the assistants have assistants, and they have assistants. So the kids are going to be getting to know the people in that on that staff. So if you're a defensive lineman, you want to get to know Jeremy Garrett. You're going to want to get to know the people that are working with him, the analysts, and then the recruiting department people that are kind of assigned to his guys. So you're going to come away getting to know a good group of people, a good mix of people. And then also, if you're one of the higher level guys, you probably will get some one-on-one time with Hugh Freeze. I've seen Hugh Freeze interacting before. I know you all have too. He can kind of work in and out of a crowd quickly and make everybody feel like they're special. So his job is going to be to try to figure out how to split that time up. You know what I mean? They're gonna have guys prioritized by level of importance. But so the main thing, again, getting to see the facilities, getting FaceTime, and getting to know the coaches, because that's about connecting with them. That's you and your families. And then also they're going to get tours of the campus as well. I mean, that's kind of basic standard stuff that you see everywhere. But to me, it's all about getting to know the new coaches at Auburn and getting to know and see that new facility. I mean, this is going to be the first time I get to see it. I'm excited.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we've heard that if it's not the best in college football, it's certainly in the conversation. And in fact, in interviews with a lot of recruits this week, they've all mentioned, I want to see this facility. I keep hearing about it. So,
Jhead, as a fan, you following this as close as, if not closer than anyone. Are you excited about this weekend?
Absolutely, and for a multitude of reasons. First and foremost, and Cole alluded to it, and I'm not looking to to bash anybody, but last year's Junior Day, by comparison, just on the invite list alone and who we expect to be there, is already markedly better. Taken to the fact, structurally speaking, what all is that Junior Day going to entail? How are they going to wrap that around as far as getting players from place to place, getting them in front of the coaches that they need to see, how this works? You've got
Logistics.
A brand new general manager in John Miller, a brand new director of player personnel in A.K. Magula. This is their first shot at really kind of structurally speaking, putting a big event in place. So I'm excited to see how that all comes. And then the fact that not only are you having 2024 kids on campus at positions of need, like Cole talked about, with linebacker, which is a huge need, because not only do you have Wes Steiner and Cam Riley moving on, Des Tisdale is potentially close to graduation, Eugene Asante, Cameron Brown. That is going to be a massive position of need. But you've got linebackers coming in. You've got wide receivers where we've talked about you need to upgrade the talent base. Offensive linemen, it's going to be another big class. You're losing at least 4 offensive linemen this coming year. Defensive linemen, and they're hammering the surrounding states. You're getting kids from Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi. That natural recruiting footprint that Auburn needs to eat out of each and every year, and where you can get high-level talent. It's not like we're in the state of Nevada, okay? And, you know what I mean, the surrounding area is just not overly fruitful besides California. You're in the crux of the recruiting hotbed in Auburn, Alabama. You have access to 5 of the states that generate the most NFL talent year in and year out. And I love the fact that we're getting in that local talent, and hopefully we can be impressive. And also the 2025 guys, we've talked about this. It is a 24-month recruiting period. That's how this works. So while you're behind on the 2024s to a degree, and this is a big catch-up moment, this is getting us on schedule with 2025, and I love to see those kids on campus as well.
Man,
if I could interject one thing, Jeffrey? Sure. I don't think that it's going to be too difficult to manage all these kids. Again, like we said earlier, if you got 7, let's suppose you have 100 kids. We have 10 assistant coaches. So if you just broke it up, that's just 10 per coach. Well, that's still a lot. But then each coach has a guy below him, and then people below them too. So are working with them. So I think when you look at it that way, it's not super overwhelming, and they ought to be able to manage it pretty well.
We kind of have an idea of how they run a visit like this from that big official visit weekend that happened earlier when they had like Rivaldo Fairweather and some of these transfers that came in. Plus, they were wrapping up before signing day. I was texting Braden Joyner during that, and he was telling me he was in a group with Elijah McAllister, Rivaldo Fairweather, and they had like their own team leader. So that's probably going to be something like they do it this week. They'll have a group or several groups where they tour them through and do different things and then come together later.
The two positions, I think Jay had mentioned, when I'm looking at the confirmed expected visitor list, and again, this list will grow. These are just the guys that we know. We have confirmed individually with them, but that linebacker group, and even linebackers coach Josh Aldridge tweeted about it yesterday, like some studs are coming in this weekend, and he's excited. And I'm looking at the linebacker list. You got 4-star linebacker DeMarcus Riddick from Chilton County, committed to Georgia. He's coming down to Auburn. Auburn had little to no shot with him 2 months ago with Hugh Freeze and this new staff. They made him a high priority. They're getting him on campus this weekend. That's 1 4-star. You got 4-star linebacker Xavier Hamilton from Navarre, Florida. You got 4-star linebacker Jordan Burns from Atlanta Pace. You've got 3-star Devin Smith, and a lot of these guys, like Cole mentioned, will end up being 4-stars. Ocean Springs, Eric Moore, Joseph Billings from Tuskegee is coming up. But that top tier of linebackers, DeMarcus Riddick, Xavier Hamilton, Jordan Burns, 3 of those guys, all elite, I would think, are considered to be elite. So a great group of linebackers coming in. Another position Jay had mentioned, and it also stood out to me, with the wide receivers.
Yes.
J.J. Harrell, Sardis, Mississippi. Cameron Coleman's coming up from Central Phoenix City. Chance Robinson Keith's coming up from Fort Lauderdale, St. Thomas Aquinas, home to the best wide receiver I've ever seen.
Cameron Brown, baby.
Anthony Schwartz.
Now, Robinson, with Robinson, it's still up in the air, I think, whether he can.
Okay. Okay. So
there's going to be, go ahead.
I was going to say Jamari Murphy's coming in. He's an in-state wide receiver. And then Kennedy Brantley, who has several different offers, is coming in, or he told me he was coming in from Texas. So a good group of wide receivers, a good group of linebackers. And then there's a lot of guys listed as athletes, like Malcolm Simmons, 4-star athlete, Ronnie Royal, 4-star athlete.
Yeah.
Those guys are coming in. Pick a position. Those cats can play just about anywhere. Defensive lineman, Jay had mentioned, Landon Marshall, Michael Bourra.
Yes.
Bourra. He's got an Auburn offer. So a lot. Jamari Payne, unheralded local kid from Lochapoka, got several offers coming in.
Yep.
Any other position of defensive backs, of course, is going to be Amon Lane, Zion Ferguson, the LSU commitment, Jaden Lewis. We talked about him, possible commitment. Tevis Metcalf's coming in. Travaris Banks coming down from Tuscaloosa. And then, hey, you know what? Let's don't forget about the punters and kickers. 2 of those guys coming in. Mason Love from Missouri and Bobby Inksler from Tallahassee, Florida. Got to have a kicker in this class, and Auburn's bringing in 2.
I'd say the one position we haven't mentioned yet is quarterback. And while we don't know of any yet, 2024s, there is an exciting 2025 coming. You're going to have to give me his name here, from Georgia. And then you also have Trent Seaborn, the 2027 quarterback from Thompson High School in Alabaster, who just helped Thompson win a state title. And so they've got to build connections with these guys so they're not scrambling in 2 years to pick up quarterbacks. I mean, ultimately, they're behind, right? They just got here in the last couple of months. They're playing catch up. A year from now, they should be more than caught up. And this is a great opportunity to get in. Can somebody give me the name of the Georgia quarterback?
Yeah,
Antoine Hill.
Yeah.
Antoine Hill, who, by the way, if you look at his photos, looks just like the former 5-star offensive lineman Trey Hill in the face, who played in Georgia, is now in the NFL. That's his uncle. And so you're bringing in him, and the guy threw, exactly like him. He threw for 40 touchdowns last year as a sophomore at Hoco, Houston County in Warner Robins, Georgia. So again, you're building, and Penn State, I think, just offered him in the last 48 hours. Auburn has not yet offered him, but if they like what they see and they feel like he's an intelligent kid, and I bet he is, because Trey Hill was a very smart guy. I think that family just, education's pretty big to them. So you start building those connections with a young guy like that early. And then obviously Trent Seaborn, he's 2027. So Hugh Freeze can't really talk to the guy, can't call the guy, can't text him. None of the coaches can. So this is his opportunity, both sides, to meet each other and actually talk. The only time they can really talk is in person. And so, Hugh Freeze was at his school recently and told the coach, Mark Freeman, who we all know, great guy, said, we want this guy to come down. He's going down, and he's excited. He's a guy that's going to have I think the guy's in the 8th grade. He's already got a dozen offers. I mean, the eighth grade. I mean, Jeff and I were playing Atari 2600 in the eighth grade. You know,
And television.
and television. That's right, ColecoVision and television. And but that's big because he may never get better. My gut says he is going to get better though, and he's going to continue to grow. He's already 6 foot, 175 pounds. So you build that connection with him and his family early, and if you like him in 3 years, you put the foot on the gas. So that's important. Now we'll have to see if any 2024 QB show up. Walker White, I believe, is going to be at Clemson this weekend.
In the words of Charlie Murphy, or excuse me, in the words of Rick James from the Charlie Murphy E! True Hollywood Stories, correction, Keith. Martin McClellan is coming in.
Kamar McClellan.
There's your 2024 quarterback.
Kamar McClellan.
What I will say about
that's right.
Yeah. Hey, man, you mentioned the 2025 group, Keith. Man, I was waiting because I want to do its own segment on these guys. What's being lost? You see, 1, 2, 3, 4 stars. But let me tell you what those 4-star guys are. They're all top 100. They're all top 65 overall recruits in that class. 2 of them are top 15 overall. So you're talking about future 5-star guys in Zion Grady, who's the number 7 overall recruit in the 2025 class. In-state defensive end from Charles Henderson, home to
Zach Etheridge.
Raw White. And then who was the Ferguson kid?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Anquan Fagans.
Yes. Yeah, Fagans.
From Thompson. He's number 11. So you got 2 top 11 overall recruits in the 2025 class coming in. And if those rankings stay the same a year from now, they'll both be 5-star guys. You've got Antoine Hill, Keith talked about. He's a top 65 overall. I think he's the number 7 quarterback in that class. And then Anthony Rogers from right up the road in Pike Road.
Big time.
Alabama. Big time running back. Another top 65 overall recruit. Mm-hmm. So you've got 4 top 100 guys, and top 100 again is being conservative. I think the lowest overall grade are ranking it. Well, Anthony Rogers is 62. Antoine Hill is 67. So you've got 4 top 70 overall recruits from the 2025 class coming in, including 2 top 11s. And then the other 2025 guys who aren't ranked yet, but have Auburn offers, guys like Shamar Anu. I know I said that right.
I know you did.
Grayshawn Swain from Anniston.
Yep.
Bryce Hudson, I think Keith wrote about him, the big offensive tackle from Grayson's coming over from Georgia. Mm-hmm. So those 2025 guys, you're talking about getting being on time with their recruitment, getting these top dogs in again. And most of these guys are coming back. And then in 2026, you got Hezekiah Harris. The Anniston team's loaded, man. They've got guys in the 2024, 2025, and 2026. Auburn's already offered 2026 Hezekiah Harris. He's an edge. He's coming in from Anniston. Anthony Jones is a stud linebacker from St. Paul's down in Mobile. And then Keith mentioned the 2027 Trent Seaborn, who won the 7A state title, beat the shit out of Auburn High School as an 8th grader. Yep. As an 8th grader. My son is in 6th grade. He is a little kid.
Dude never changed his expression the whole game.
He's
either.
2 years older than my 12-year-old son, and he beat the shit out of Auburn High School in the 7A state championship game.
Looking like Montravius Atkinson with that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That full-grown man look.
And honestly, can we just make this point real quick? People say the Stetson Bennett thing. Oh, he's got such great players around him. Yeah, he does. But how about you look at the throws, man? He made all the throws. All of them. Every throw looked good to me. I didn't see one that I go, that's not good enough. Nope, they all look good. So there you go.
He can spin it. So
am I on the right show? I lost y'all for a minute. I come back and Cole's talking about Stetson Bennett. What's going on? What happened here?
More importantly, Keith, are you in the right lane?
No.
I'm in the middle lane, and I'm in that part of Florida. Everybody wonders where I get all my cutoff jean shorts. This is the place where you would get them, right here, near the Georgia-Florida line.
Okay, all right.
3 for $10, Red.
As long as you're not in that left lane, all's good.
Right, 100%.
So, hey, let's talk about what everybody really wants to know.
Sure.
Who is going to commit? Everybody, that's what folks want to know. Auburn has one commitment right now. They had two. They dropped Adrian Posse, the quarterback from South Florida, dropped him. He's no longer committed. So you've got Amon Lane, the 4-star defensive back from Moody, who committed under Harsin. And since the transition of coaches and the new coaching staff says, we want you, do you want us? He checked yes, sent the note back to them. So all is good with Amon Lane being committed to Auburn. He will be here tomorrow for the junior day. Will anybody join him this weekend? We've got a couple of guys we've been keeping an eye on. Mentioned it in the war room today. 4-star defensive back from Anniston, Jaden Lewis, has been high on Auburn for quite some time. Jamarian Fat,
Yes.
Burnett, the running back from Andalusia, who's rushed for, I don't remember, 2,000s of yards. He's really good. He'll be in as well. Both of those guys are coming in. He has said he will be committing soon. Hasn't announced a date, just said committing soon from what I can remember. So those two guys are we're going to be keeping a close eye on. And you know, like we talked about before we went on the started recording, you know, there's always like some dude from, you know, East Bumble, Florida or Georgia who just comes out of nowhere and commits. Right. Wouldn't be surprised by that. I'm going down the list, folks. Anybody else that you got? Those two guys are pretty much, it's not like I'm coming in with a hot take here. Anybody else? Does anybody have anybody else? You know what? I could see it happening.
Not out of this group. If Bradley Shaw had been here, linebacker from Hoover, that's one that I'm really tracking that I think he could be on an expedited timeline. Obviously, Walker White, the quarterback, we're all kind of following that one. But is it any surprise? We just talked about how recruiting is a 24-month process, that a running back and a defensive back, and you retained Carnell Cadillac Williams and Zach Etheridge, are the two guys that we're tracking that are close to a commitment. It seems on par with what we all have kind of noted in our group chat and, you know, kind of just what we know about the overall recruiting process. But Jaden Lewis, big-time defensive back. Jamarian Fat Burnett, big-time tailback. I think he's right. He does need to get his body in a little bit better shape. There are people that have told me that, but I can't remember the last time we had a kid his size. If you get a commitment from him, a running back that is as big as him.
6'1", 210, he was listed. Sorry, Jhead. I want to throw that in.
I think I've seen him in person. He's bigger than that, Jeffrey. I mean, I think he's almost every bit of 215, 220 right now.
Not quite Cam Petway.
No, but could be there in time. I mean, I don't think that's outside the realm of possibility. And Cam Petway is a guy we recruited to play fullback initially and transitioned to running back. This kid is a running back all the way. And I think you're talking short yardage or needing to bang it in between the tackles. He can do it, and he can do it in spades. I'm really impressed with what I've seen from his film, but I'll hand it over at that point to you guys, to you, Keith and Cole.
37.
But it just doesn't surprise me that, you know, given what we know about the recruiting process and retaining those two guys that can sell Auburn better than anybody, that those are the two places you're potentially going to get a commitment.
Damn good theory.
I'll tell you a couple guys I'm keeping an eye on, and I don't know if they're going to be anywhere near ready to commit, but it's not always about, and I know nobody wants to hear this, but, you know, Big Cat Weekend every year, and people are like, okay, we're going to get 8 or 9 commitments, and you maybe get one. It's about building. It's about building. And so you get guys, you go to their schools, you communicate with them via phone, you get them to visit. Then you get them to come back in spring to watch practice. Then you hopefully get them to the A-Day game. And at that point, a lot of these guys are getting close, right? They're getting close to knowing where they're going to go. But to me, two guys that I'm watching, and I'm just intrigued by, and it's early, but I wouldn't be surprised if they end up at Auburn. And one in Cole's written about Devin Smith, the linebacker from Brunswick, Georgia. Mm-hmm. It seems they identified him pretty early as an offer guy. It's a 3-star kid. They identified him pretty early. Remember who else was a 3-star linebacker from the Brunswick, Georgia area? Jared Davis, one-time Auburn commit who ended up not going to Auburn and ended up being a first-round pick. But very good area. And Auburn's had good success over in Brunswick. So Devin Smith, I know that Josh Aldridge, the linebackers coach, was recently there. I think they're starting to build a pretty good relationship. So I'm keeping an eye on him. I have no idea if he's nearing even close to commitment, but I just somebody that I think it looks like they're working toward that. And then another guy that I'm intrigued by is an offensive tackle from Nashville that I wrote about, John Wayne Oliver, the Duke. He is unrated, but he's got offers from schools like Auburn and Michigan and Miami and Florida State, I think. And if Michigan's offered you, you're probably doing things right, because 2 years in a row they've won best offensive line in college football, if my memory's correct here. And so, big kid, versatile, could play guard or tackle. I think he's probably more suited for tackle. At least that's what we're projecting as a website. And he said, "Hey, look, man, I'd like to do this before my senior season, but let's see what happens this weekend. Let's see." Auburn's kind of got in on him early. I don't know. When I talked to him, it sounded like he was a guy that was supremely interested. And I'm thinking if Auburn hits it out of the park this weekend, that could be the first step, 2 steps away from him being in the class. Now, we'll see. I could be dead wrong on both these kids. A lot of it for us, as you all know, is just initial vibes. You know what I mean? Initial vibes. But I got that same initial vibe with Walker White, right?
Yep.
And now we think that Auburn could get him, the 4-star quarterback. We'll see. So anyway, those are 2 guys I'm keeping track of this weekend. Be real curious to see what they say.
I think that's a great point, Keith. Is some of these non-ranked guys, some of these 3-star guys, some lower ranked, but the true test to me is, do they have an Auburn offer?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Do they have an Auburn offer? And so those 2 guys, Devin Smith, John Wayne Oliver, definitely guys like that. Those are the kind of guys that you would get a commitment from that maybe you weren't keeping an eye on.
That's what I was going to say too, Jeffrey. There's some guys. I mean, there's actually a lot of guys coming in that don't claim an Auburn offer yet, and if they do get that offer, that's something they jump on. That could be something to watch. Some of these guys probably leave without an offer, if we're being honest, because they're wanting to see these guys for the first time, and they hadn't gotten the chance to. They've only been on the job for a month and a half, 2 months. So, but a couple of picks for me. I say Trayshawn Griffin is a guy from Bibb County, unranked guy. He's a defensive lineman. Boy, I've talked to a couple coaches over the past week. They have raved about this guy. They said he's probably the best D lineman in the state that we went against, is what I've been told on him.
Oh, I got somebody for you too. Isaiah Fega.
Oh, yeah, from Central.
From Central Phoenix City. He's committed to Utah. Just got an Auburn offer earlier this week or the week before. So he's a guy, unranked defensive lineman from Central Phoenix City. Isaiah Fega, he's committed to Utah. Auburn has offered. Those are the kind of guys that I would put him on my list. Yeah. Potential flip.
Yeah.
A local kid that's committed to Utah with an Auburn offer.
Yep. And a couple other guys. I've talked to Jordan Burns a lot, who's a 4-star linebacker from Atlanta. I'm the same way with him that I am with Devin Smith, and Devin Smith's the guy that Keith mentioned. He's a guy that I've talked to. I get that same vibe that Auburn's like a really big factor for that guy, and obviously he's got a lot of offers. He's a 4-star guy, but I don't know if he'd commit this weekend. But is he a guy to watch going forward after this visit? Yeah, I was surprised he was going. So after talking to him again, I was like, yeah, it seems like Auburn's really high for you. So him, Jaden Lewis, of course, from Anniston, Caleb Harris, the 3-star safety from Thompson, Alabaster. Man, every time I talk to him, and I talked to him in person this past season when I went to the Thompson game, he's high on Auburn. He's very high on Auburn. It's one of the top 2 or 3 is the impression I get.
Well, you'd like to get some poise from Thompson, wouldn't
you? Yeah, you would.
And here's an interesting one too. I've actually talked before we found out he was coming. I've talked to him before. He actually followed me last year, and I talked to him, just feel him out, see who he was, because it said he was a 5-star kicker. The Mason Love guy from Missouri, he's also a punter. So they're fixing to lose Oscar Chapman after this season, I think, so to the NFL, because he's really good. Is he a guy that maybe jumps in as a punter and kicker and works behind, wanting to work behind Alex McPherson, be a punter as well, that kind of thing? Is he a guy that jumps in? He's making a long trip out here. So
absolutely, Keith.
I'm going to give my first piece of advice to Hugh Freeze's staff. I wouldn't. Now, this guy may be good. I don't know. But if you need a guy to kick right away and you don't go to Pro Kick Australia or Australia Pro Kick, where they got the last 2 guys, I think you need to have your head checked. I don't know, man. I think I'd be going back. But no, I mean, the truth is you actually got to have more than 2 kickers. You really need a guy. You really need 3. You need a guy that can do both. You got your ace punter and your ace kicker, and then you need somebody that can do both and do long kickoffs. to kind of bail you out of other and can bail you out of other situations when a guy's hurt and all that. What were you saying, Jeffrey?
Cole mentioned the kid from Mason Love from Missouri, the Bobby Inkster, the kid from Florida, is a guy that they were in on by Rock Bellantoni, the special teams coordinator under Harsin. I think he offered Bobby Inkster. So it's so they're bringing both of those guys in. Is one better punter than he is a kicker? Is one better kicker than he is a punter, Keith? Because if so, that lines up with what you're looking for. Now you've got one at each position. Now you're looking for kind of a best available to kind of be the backup. But I don't want to waste.
I'm with you on that. I don't know who's better. You just always you got to brace for the worst case scenarios, right? And you know, how many times have you seen a team, their kicker gets hurt and they're having to throw out somebody there that has no business kicking? Well, you don't see it as much as you used to, and that's because teams have gotten a little more savvy here. So we'll see. Yeah, good versatile guy, and we'll see what happens there.
And I will say this, there is a push in the coaching community to find specialists that you can get to walk on that are scholarship caliber, and then you give them the NIL money to compensate them for the scholarship.
Yeah, sure.
So there's a potential to commit to create flexibility there. So while you may get a commitment, it may not necessarily be a scholarship commitment.
I was about to ask this question, Jhead. I thought the same thing, right? Would you rather burn a scholarship on a kicker, or would you rather burn NIL money on a kicker?
NIL money all day for me, because
I agree.
I guess.
How much is he going to cost you, right?
Right. Are they in state? Are they out of state? That would probably factor into it as well, because you're talking about a difference in tuition, how all that works. But I tend to believe NIL, because you can go out and raise more NIL to a degree, right?
I mean,
if you're talking to a couple of donors and you say, hey, look, I need a couple extra dollars here to help us get this kicker. There are only 85 scholarships, only 85. And if you want to stack it with the best players you possibly can, that may call for a little bit of a tougher decision. So I think I'd rather waste my NIL money, everything being equal as far as that's concerned.
And it probably wouldn't cost you much. You're going to reimburse it for the tuition. So you're looking at what, 35, 40 grand a year?
Probably, yeah.
You got
$3,000 a month.
With kickers, I mean, a lot of times when we talk to recruits, we ask them, what does the success at this position at Auburn mean to you? Lately, it's been corners and safeties. You go, man, they got a lot of guys in the NFL. That's deal. Auburn's had a really good tradition of kickers, guys. They've had an awesome tradition of kickers.
Who's the Aussie under Gus?
Aaron Sipas.
Yes.
Hey, I can see the viewership is plummeting. Should we talk about it?
Yeah, let's move on from kickers.
I'll tell you what, to transition, you guys have listed some sleepers as far as that's concerned, of guys that you think may be scholarship guys or guys that could flip. For me, there is one guy that I'm tracking, and I saw it when he got his scholarship offer and the excitement that he had. But it's a young man out of the state of Mississippi. He's a running back by the name of
he's from Pascagoula?
Kayan Daniels from West Point, Mississippi.
Oh, yeah.
Put on his tape. The kid's a prior quarterback. He just started playing running back this past year. It was over 2,000 yards. Explosive. Not a bigger back in the mold of a Fat Burnett, but a guy that's athletic, that probably mirrors what Hugh Freeze has utilized in the past, maybe even Philip Montgomery. But a guy that I'm watching, and somebody that, was very, very excited about that offer in the middle of nowhere, Mississippi. He hasn't been evaluated properly to this point. I guarantee you he's going to be a much higher ranked kid once people start to get their eyes on him. And he's got offers already from Oregon, Mississippi State, Auburn, and Vanderbilt, I believe.
Jhead, you led me to something that Jeffrey and I talked about the other day. It looks like Mississippi is now going to officially be part of the Auburn footprint, recruiting footprint. And you've got Hugh Freeze with the connections there, Jake Thornton with the connections there, Jeremy Garrett with the connections there. Ron Roberts has coached in that region for many, many years. And I'm just telling you, man, I think that's an area, and now every year is different, right? Every year is different. There's not always going to be a great class out of Mississippi, but we're seeing the offers start to pick up again over there. And now we're going to find out if these coaches have any traction over there. And they might. We'll see. That could be significant,
Going back to the Marcus Woodson days when you got Derek Hall, or was that Marcus Woodson?
It was Derek Hall,
Stone
Handy.
Handy.
And Charles Moore. Only one of them panned out, but you don't know that at the time. Everybody recruited those guys. You know, it's not like it was an Auburn failure. You know,
I'll tell you what. The more that I sit and observe the way that Hugh Freeze recruits and his strategy and his staff strategy, I think he's got like a competitive edge about beating schools like Ole Miss and Alabama and Georgia, and specifically those coaches there. Every recruit that I talk to on campus, when I talk to them after they have left their campus visit, they say when they sat in Coach Freeze's office, he said, well, I didn't realize that he beat Nick Saban twice. And I said, oh, really? How did you he goes, oh, he told me like one of the first things he told me when I got in there. So he's very, very serious about beating some of these people. I mean, everybody is, but he's made it a point to tell recruits that too. Hey, I beat these guys before. I'm going to do it again, And that's why he's so heavy in Mississippi right now. That's why he's made stops to all the Alabama commits like in a row the other day. That's just my observation of him right now. I like it. I kind of like it.
Brooks would call that a flex.
Oh, I actually saw Brent Venables, Oklahoma's coach, talking just briefly to a recruit the other day. They can only talk for a second. And he said, the first thing he said was, hey, we at Oklahoma, we put more guys. Yeah. We had more offensive tackles drafted in the first round than anybody or something like that. Whatever it was he wasn't wasting any time. These guys are smart guys now. They have limited time, whether they're on campus or even at their own schools. Even if you have an hour with somebody, you can't cover everything. So you cut to the chase. And Hugh Freeze, same thing. And by the way, a guy that Jeffrey and I know well, Jarris McIntyre, I hung out with the other day, the former Auburn receiver. Hugh Freeze came by his school, Tampa Catholic, and Jarris said he made a great impression on the kids. He made a great impression on me. He said, man, this guy is chill. He can just kind of blend into any conversation in any situation, and he's just comfortable. He just looks comfortable. And those are the guys that are successful recruiters, man.
Yeah. I will tell you this. I had a conversation with a guy that used to be in the player personnel world because I was kind of asking him about our involvement in the state of Mississippi. And what he told me is he said, look, you get some of the best raw athletes in the entire Southeast out of the state of Mississippi. They are underdeveloped because they're in these rural, small schools that don't have the best resources. He said, whereas in Texas, you can get guys that are overdeveloped and they probably even possibly peaked at that point. So you have to be very careful with how you recruit that state because of the importance that's placed on football at the high school level. In Mississippi, it's the reverse. And if you've got somebody on your staff that knows where to go to find those guys or has relationships to leverage, you can hit some real gold mines in the state of Mississippi for guys that are, those just unranked athletes at this point in the recruiting cycle if you get in on them early. So I'm interested to see, have we hit that gold mine with all the relationships that this staff seems to have in that state?
Yeah. Good point.
Jabari Murphy. Jabari Murphy. Is that the in-state wide receiver?
Yes, Elmore County.
Eclectic.
Yep.
Not sure Auburn's interest there.
Yeah, I talked to him earlier in the week. He said he hadn't heard from them much, and then he hit me back maybe a day later and said, just got the invite. So happened like that.
and you know what, Keith? We've talked about this before, man, but this – maybe it was Jhead, but these days like this kind of lets you know it's kind of an indicator of Auburn's initial interest, at least, right?
Yep.
If you're getting an invite to this junior day, Auburn, the first step has been taken for some of these kids. It's already been taken for a lot of them, but for some of these kids coming in here without an offer, and if you've been invited to Auburn, hey, you're at least on our board.
Yeah, and that's true. And some of the kids they offered some Auburn High kids, and some of those may end up being preferred walk-on types, good players, by the way. But so you've got some of those kids too. But you're right. By and large, if you're getting an invitation to one of these things, there's some real interest on Auburn's behalf. And it's funny, we're all guilty of this. We get so caught up in the rankings, and they've offered multiple kids that don't even have rankings. I think is it Devin Collier? Was that the name of the kid at Lee County that I wrote about the other day? 5'11", 200-pounder that plays Lee County, Georgia, where I'm not that far from. a school that's producing just a ton of talent every year. Okay, 5'11", 200, plays nickel, plays running back, an athlete that's never really. This is to your point about Mississippi, Jhead, except obviously in Georgia they're getting these schools. High schools have indoor facilities, but he's never really focused just on one position. Auburn offered him. It's going to be one of those guys that's just a special athlete that gets a lot of offers, and they're trying to get him up there this weekend. He's going to try to make it. Sometimes these kids already have plans. Some of them are playing basketball. Some of them have indoor track in Alabama. So it's a challenge. And then also, it's the last weekend before the dead period. The dead period starts, I think, the 29th, I want to say. The day after, or the 30th.
Sunday.
Yeah, 30th. Yeah. And so, everybody right now and across the Southeast is trying to get, in the country, but the schools Auburn recruits, they're all trying to get these kids on campus this weekend. It's the last weekend before you go dead for a month and you can't have anybody on your campus. So when you factor all that in, there does seem to be some buzz about Auburn right now. There does. Now, I think one way to get that buzz to go up even higher is to get yourself a quarterback in the next 4 to 8 weeks. You do that, and I think it then shoots up about 3 more levels, to be honest with you. But no, everything's trending up right now for Auburn. I mean, we don't have to create anything. We don't have to invent momentum. They're getting guys on campus. Kids are saying all the right things. They want to see the facilities. They're excited about Hugh Freeze. And again, I think that I still go back to one point. All these high school coaches, they all know Hugh Freeze. I'll tell you what, Trent Seaborn, the 2027 quarterback from Thompson, he's never met Hugh Freeze, okay? But his coach, Mark Freeman, knows Hugh Freeze, and he said, hey, he likes him a lot. And because Hugh knows all these guys, and Cole, this goes back to some stuff you worked on last winter or last December or November when Auburn was getting ready to hire Hugh Freeze and then hire him. You spoke to a bunch of high school coaches, and they raved about the guy. Well, they're going to pass that along to the guys that they coach, and it seems that that's happened.
Yep. I wanted to mention one more guy, Jeffrey, Joseph Phillips, who's an unranked linebacker from Booker T. Washington in Tuskegee, which is, for those that aren't familiar with the Auburn area, everybody probably is, but that's right there. I mean, it is 20 minutes or less from Auburn. He told me, like, I guess Auburn's the leader because it's the only place I've ever been. I've been there twice, and I've never been anywhere else. So he's got offers from Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, Penn State.
Oh, shit, really?
Everybody.
His ranking's not going to be where it is for very long. I promise you that. When you
I asked him, I said, is Auburn
6'3", 220?
Yeah.
Hey, actually, just by happenstance, I wanted to watch Jeremiah Cobb in person, and I believe Cadillac was there that night to watch him, and it was an away game for Catholic. It was at Booker T. Washington. And, I just expected that to be a blowout because Catholic blew everybody up. And they did that in the playoffs, too, until they lost that one game. But Booker T. Washington made it a game all the way through, and it was because of Joseph Phillips. He was hitting Jeremiah Cobb in the mouth, okay? Good player. He's big, physical, one of the best athletes I've seen in person. But I asked him, is Auburn a place you think about committing soon? He goes, no, I gotta see all these schools. Like, they have come after me. I really like Auburn. They're definitely in front. I think they're probably in front. I can't really say that for sure because I have got to see these schools because they're coming after me pretty hard. So I thought that was really interesting. And he's a guy that's going to be a big target moving forward.
I just saw your story on him from about 3 weeks ago, Cole, and Auburn reoffering Junior Phil. Dude, this guy's a stud. I don't have to see his film. I don't have to see his unranking, his non-ranking. He's got Auburn, Alabama, Georgia, Florida. That's all I need to see. He's a 4-star guy, offer alone. Offer list alone. Stud, 6'3", 220.
Yeah, then put his film up after you see that offer list, and you'll understand why he has it. It is legitimate. And I know that our ratings guys are probably swamped right now because not only are they doing, they're finalizing 2023. They got 2024. They're also doing the transfer portal. Yeah. It's a nightmare right now. I couldn't imagine being in the ranking service as far as that's concerned.
And go ahead, Jay. I'm sorry.
When they get around to this kid, you're right, Jeffrey. It's not going to take long for them to say, okay, 4-star, rubber stamp, move on.
Yeah.
People talk about the camps all the time and getting seen in the camps. And that is important because you get them all in one place instead of having to go to every little bitty town in Mississippi, Alabama, Florida. It's hard to do that. You gotta allot some time for that. But Joseph Phillips hadn't really been a camper. Why? Because he's got a job. Every time he's not practicing football or at school, he's working. So that's when I talked to him. He was on break at work.
You know what he does?
Yeah, he works at McDonald's in Shorter.
Cool, man. Respect, dude.
No doubt.
Let me tell you something. If you're a D1 athlete, a high school elite football player, and you're working at McDonald's, sign me up, big dog.
I know.
Sign me up. Joseph Phillips
me.
just became my favorite recruit of the 2024 class.
You need to call him, Jeffrey, and put aside some time because he'll talk to you. He's a good
For
dude.
real?
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna put him on the top of my list. Joseph Phillips. He's the new Camden Brown.
He's like, man, I'm about to get in trouble. I got to run out. I'm on my break here. I said, oh, I didn't even realize that.
You gotta be shitting me.
Yeah.
Wow. Man,
So,
I tell you what, Joseph Phillips, folks, Booker T. Washington and nearby Skiggy.
Yep.
6'3", 220, got offers from everybody that you want offers from.
Yeah, you could ask Jeremiah Cobb about him. He remember.
Speaking of Jeremiah Cobb, I guess we got to address the fact that he's going to sign next week. Or
yeah, I forgot about this. Signing day is Wednesday.
Yeah.
Sure is, isn't it?
I forgot about that. Signing day is Wednesday, folks. Believe it or not.
Yep.
So probably got one signing.
Has C.J. Johnson signed? Yes.
He has. CJ signed. Obviously, our current commitment will sign, and then maybe Will James, guys.
That's the only guy I know of.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I mean, that's the only guy I know of that's even a possibility.
Yeah, right.
Right.
And why you would need another defensive back in this class, I don't know. But they know a lot more than I do. Trust me, the coaches know a lot more than we do.
Well, at one point they were going to take Tony Mitchell and Braden Marshall too, right? So they got in their mind they might have a spot, but I don't know. I mean, he thinks the offer might come. That's at last check. I need to get back with him, but I'm not sure. I really can't read that one.
And then the only other name on the board was Brian Longwell, which we think is trending elsewhere at this point, possibly Arizona State, Colorado, something.
Yeah, I don't see him in Auburn. No, Christian Robinson gone.
No.
And so yeah, Will James, Jeremiah Cobb. Will James is the only potential guy. We expect Jeremiah Cobb to publicly announce his signing with Auburn. Kudos to him for sticking there with his buddies. He wants to have a big celebration with all of his classmates, his teammates, his buddies. So we'll be keeping track on that on Wednesday. I'm sure Auburn will release it as soon as they can. Zach, jump in here, big dog. Are you talking about Joseph Phillips fighting the Twitter trolls about Cormani McClain? Oh, that's what the Rivals rankings guys are doing.
Yeah. It was a joke about the 4-star because I think everyone had a meltdown over that.
Who is Cormani McClain?
He was the 5-star corner out of Miami that just committed that flip to Colorado.
And they gave him a 5-star?
Or no, he was a 5-star and on 3 dropped him to a 4-star and people had a meltdown.
And raised Keldrick Falk to a 5-star.
So who dropped him to a 4-star?
On 3.
On 3 did.
Okay, so this was a guy that was expected to commit to Florida and then ended up committing to Miami when a day before nobody knew that he was going to Miami, I guess, or a couple of days before. And now, after being committed to Miami for quite a long time, ditched them at the last minute to sign with Colorado. He may be a great kid. He may be a great player. But that is a red flag. That is a little bit of a red flag, especially when it comes to rankings, because we have followed this for a long time. Jeffrey's the godfather here. When there's a lot of drama with the kid, Jeffrey, how often do they pan out? How much does the percentage drop?
It's very rare. Let's be honest here, right?
It drops.
The
percentage drops. Yeah.
You look at the best college football players of the last 10 years. Most of them, the large majority of them, their recruitments were. Look at Reuben Foster. Look at what's his name from Phoenix City.
You talking about the kid that just signed last year?
No. I'm in the Auburn sphere, so I'm thinking who had the dramatics. It was just
Kroll, Isaiah Kroll, maybe.
Kroll.
Kroll.
What did Javion Cohen ever pan out?
Yeah,
He did actually started games at Bama. Now he's NIL got him down to Miami, so he's going to play his final year with the Kings.
Oh, really? So a guy who could be swayed back during his recruitment can now be swayed. Yes. So panning out, but the red flag key.
He might have lost his starting job, and I don't follow all of
There you go. He didn't.
But I think he's been a pretty good player.
Here's a good example. George Pickens looked like he was panning out pretty well, but had so many problems at Georgia. Now he's in the NFL panning out well. Did he work out at Georgia? Because they had so many problems there. It's almost like they couldn't count on him to play.
Well, they did win a national title with him, though.
I was going to say, and
he had a catch in that game.
I think a lot of his problems were injuries, along with some off the field stuff. But if the kid stays healthy, he's a beast, man.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not going to knock him.
Well, that's the thing. All these guys are talented. There's no question about it with these guys. Cormani McClain's one of the best talents in the country. Is he going to work out, though?
Well, that's why he has offers from Florida and Miami and Colorado.
I mean, don't get me wrong. T.J. Yeldon had a lot of drama. He ended up being a fantastic player.
True.
There are guys with drama that end up being great, but the percentage drops a little bit. Okay, it definitely drops. So.
Yeah.
Could you imagine being Curtis Looper after that T.J. Yeldon flip? Woo, buddy.
Oh, Luke.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine Jeff Lee after that, TJ? Being Jeff Lee after that, TJ.
I think Jeffrey was on hiatus in North Carolina when that.
If I wasn't, I would have went on it after that shit. All right, folks, let's wrap it up there. We're going to be all over this junior day all weekend long. Go to Auburn Live on 3. Go ahead and get signed up, man. Like I said, it's free for the first week. I think right now the deal is still going on. It's like $29 until September. So you get about 10 months for about $3 a month. Can't beat it, man. We're going to be all over the junior day. Keith's coming up. We'll be running a live blog all day long at Auburn Live on 3. We'll be confirming guys when guys shows up. Before guys show up, we're going to have exit interviews. We're going to be doing we're going to have blowout coverage. Before we go, anybody got a how about you this week?
I do.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Albie Fan, who sent myself, you, and Cole a DM.
Oh, yeah.
Wanted to let you know, much appreciated. Thank you for sharing that. And please keep watching the show and tuning in. We really appreciate you being part of the community.
Definitely.
Cole or Keith?
Yeah, same for me. I give him a ×2. And then I'll also add just an old-time favorite. Stats don't matter.
Yay!
Well, I've got 2. Weeks again. Weeks had a photo taken with Hugh Freeze and Zach Etheridge yesterday at Callaway High School, and then had to eat a bunch of it from of all people, Rice on the board after Rice made fun of him for wearing a women's soccer T-shirt. So that was exciting. That was exciting. But also, and you guys, I need help on this because I'm driving and I forgot to write this down. The person on our board who lost their family member in the last week, you all saw it before I did, and I went in. Is it Auburn? Oh gosh,
I think I did him last week.
Okay, you did.
But I'll look that up and put him back on the list.
Yes, well, if you don't mind, but just thoughts are with him and his family still, or them and their families.
Absolutely,
absolutely.
That's it for me.
I was going to say, you was talking about that kid from Brunswick, Keith. You know the best thing come out of Brunswick?
Not Rice.
The stew.
Hey!
Keith, you know anything about Brunswick stew?
No, but yes. By the way, we ought to give Rice a how about you every week. Nobody takes more crap on the board than that guy.
Nobody deserves it. I love Rice.
I mean, it's the best, man. Yeah. And he responds within 30 seconds. The guy could be on an airplane and he's responding in 30 seconds somehow.
Yep.
It's unbelievable. Anyway, that's it for me.
Okay. All right. I got Obliterati. Dude, obliterated me the other day. I can't remember what it was, but it's funny to say. Tecmo 34, man. Red Boy 33. How about you, big dog? How about you to TLB for AU? How about you to Beef Stew? Not Brunswick Stew, but Beef Stew 0702. And how about you to Johnny 8 Ball? I just like Johnny 8 Ball.
I was going to say, I just like the name, bro.
Yeah.
I guess he's a big pool player
Probably.
Maybe.
Probably.
or something.
Or cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Oh, hey, great stuff, folks, man. We appreciate everybody listening. We appreciate everybody subscribing, and we will be all over it this weekend. We hope to fill all the needs you have for Auburn recruiting. It's going to be a big weekend, man. We'll be all over it. We'll be back. We will be back Sunday night for the call-in show, and we will wrap up this weekend and see how it goes into the February dead period. If anybody's going to commit and join Amon Lane, great day in the morning, on this commitment list. Let me get the hell out of here before I can't talk. Hey, appreciate everybody. Appreciate everybody. Appreciate everybody. For Cole, for Jhead, for Keith on the road, for Zach in the back, I'm Jeffrey Lee. Man, y'all stay out of that left lane, Keith. See you.